Welcome to the lecture 4, Smart Contract, in the series of the blockchain lectures. Today we are going to cover a smart contract as the topic. So, let us recap. Till now what we had done is, we had covered the overview of blockchain, we had covered the blockchain principles and technologies, and in the last lecture we had get into the deep of the smart Bitcoin. Now, in this lecture we will get into more deep on and try to understand what the smart contract is. In this session, we are going to cover traditional contract management, how it happens, what is smart contract, what are the salient features of the smart contract, the characteristics of the smart contract, how smart contracts work, and how to develop smart contract. After that, we will compare the traditional and smart contracts, then we will see some of the use cases of the smart contract, where the smart contract can be used or being used in market, and then the last, the disadvantages of the smart contract. So, let us start with the topic with the traditional contract management. Now, in today's world, normally when we do a contract, so there is a process that we have to follow. Let us take an example. Ravi wants to sign a deal with the Saurabh. Now, there is going to be a deal. When I say going to be a deal, there might be some kind of a contract that has to be defined in between those. So, what happens is, Ravi and Saurabh has to contact a lawyer to define a legal contract. So, that in case of any discrepancy, they can go and challenge and they can ask for the solution. And if that in any case, in that case, if it has to be registered with the legal entity, then your legal entity also gets engaged, am I right? So, it might be two people getting engaged, or might be a company or a person getting engaged, or it might be two companies getting engaged. You need a contract, am I right? Now, after getting those signed, both parties will have the signed copy, and also the legal entity or the lawyer also keeps a copy of that contract. Everything goes fine, and whenever the payment has to be done, the settlement has to be done, it has to be done with the clauses of the clauses defined in the contract. In case of any conflict or non-compliance, the legal lawyers and the legal entity gets involved for the execution of the contract if there is a conflict, and this is how the traditional contract management works. So, this diagram shows Ravi and Saurabh has connected, they have their own contract, they defined a contract and with the centralized party and the lawyer. Now, if that is the traditional, what is the smart contract? So, first of all, smart, as word says, smart contract is a computer program that centralized on that is based on a decentralized network such as blockchain. So, again, similar to the Bitcoin, smart contract is also based on the blockchain technology. Smart contract is basically intended to be a self-executing, controlling and documenting legal relevant events and actions according to the terms of contract or an agreement between the network participants. In our case, the network participants are the two parties, without the need of the traditional contract, also automatically facilitates, verifies and enforces negotiations. So, in a simple term, it is a software program which automatically executes based on certain events, external events get fired, it validates with the contracts, and everything goes fine, it executes and settles the contract, and that is how we call it a smart contract. Just for your information, smart contract was first proposed by Nick Szabó in the year 1994. He is an American computer scientist. He has also invented a virtual currency called BitGold in 1998. Make sense? Now, what are the features of the smart contract? So, first of all, it is a part of the blockchain network. So, if it is a part of the blockchain network, it is tamper proof, it is transparent, it is decentralized, it is no single point of failure. All those benefits of the blockchain will automatically comes to the smart contract. And if you remember the slide second session, we talk about blockchain version 2 is nothing but smart contracts. Terms and conditions of the contract. So, whenever we write any contract, there is always a terms and conditions, am I right? So, normally it is called written as a clause 1, clause 2, term condition 1, 2, 3. If this doesn't, if X thing doesn't happen, then Y amount will be deducted. Those kind of contracts. These contracts are written as part of software code. So, basically we are writing a software code for each and every terms and condition. So, what happens is basically the computer codes. So, all the defined possible outcomes, am I right? If this doesn't happen, this will happen. All these things will be coded as if then else clause condition in the program. Contract conditions are available on the public, definitely, because it is based on the blockchain. So, it is available on the public network. So, nobody can do a cheating or do a fraud with us. Normally, parties involved in the contract use their public keys as IDs to stay anonymous, right? That is, it is normally people do, right? It is not fixed. Parties signs there. So, normally when you have in a traditional, both the parties signs it. Now, in this smart contract, how you sign it? So, there is a digital signature available to you, and they use their private keys to sign the contract. So, once you sign the contract is signed and get as a code to the as a part of the code to the smart contract platform. And whenever, so there is always conditions. Whenever the conditions met, external conditions comes to you to your software program, and whenever the condition met, any condition met, contracts execute itself, and there is no process involved. So, nobody can tamper it. Nobody can say, oh, I just forget it, I cannot execute at that point of time, the time has just expired. Those excuses are gone. So, whenever the event happens, the triggers comes to the code, contract itself executes and takes the verification and do the execution. Regulate, still if you have a legal entity involved, right, you have certain legal regulatories has to be part of it. So, they do not control it, but they have to monitor those, right. So, regulators can monitor blockchain for the contract activities. Whatever the activity is happening in the contract, the regulatory bodies can still see this, because this is a public domain. And the thing is, no one can interfere. As we said, once the transaction happened, no one can roll back first, no one can temper that transaction, am I right, because there is a consensus based verification system, am I right. If you change something and the block has changed, the code of the hash block of the code, all those things comes to the picture. So, basically no one can change or interfere with the contract and even the execution, because execution also is automatically. It is a code that does execution. So, no one can interfere, manual intervention is required. And what good thing is, so you can have a multiple smart contract, am I right? You can have a contract which connects to each other in the traditional world also. So, in the smart contract also, you can connect with another smart contract or application for your integrations. For example, you can have a mobile app where you are doing some activity, and if something happens, you can say if this happens, connect with the smart contract as an event sent to the smart contract. Those kind of integrations are possible. Definitely, it is a part of a software program. So, you can program it, but that is all possible. These are the few salient features of the smart contract. Now, what are the characteristics of the smart contract? So, most of the characteristics are part of the blockchain, the trusted and secured. Each contract is signed by a participant and encrypted and shared across the network. Second, confidentiality of the parties are maintained. As I said, they use public keys. So, cryptography has public and private keys. So, they use their public keys as ID to be anonymous in most of the cases. Autonomy, there is no central governing authority or third party involved for any kind of a contract, correct. Only two parties signed it, the contract has been part of the code, put on the platform, and then gets started self executing. Immutable, it is not possible to perform any kind of a tampering with a contract, and it cannot be reversed. So, any transaction that is recorded on blockchain cannot be reversed, correct. Any tampering is not possible because there is a consensus based. So, if there is somebody changes, the network nodes has to verify it, and if there is somebody is trying to fraud it, they will reject that transaction. Self verifying and executing, that is the important. So, whenever an event happens, as I said, whenever an event happens, the contract clause been verified, and when the conditions met, contract executes itself. So, whenever event receives to the smart contract platform, smart contract self verify the clause and transaction, and if needed, it start doing execution itself. No manual intervention required. Fast and cost effective. Now, see, imagine the moment the event happened, correct? The moment event happened, automatically events happened and triggered to the software code and start executing. In the traditional world, what happens to be done? When event happened, you have to go to the third party, you involve them, they look into this matter, all those things takes time, and that is also slow and it requires a cost, because every time you go, they will charge some fees, and those kind of things happen based on your contract with the lawyer and central agency. But definitely, if you see the smart contract, there is no cost involved, software is running, event happened, it automatically goes and execute, no delays. High degree of accuracy, whatever is verified, whatever is coded will be executed. There is no confusion, there is no manual process, correct. So, whatever has been verified, written in the code is the truth. Transparency, all the transactions, all the actions happened in the smart contracts are transparent to all, basic feature of the blockchain. High degree of availability, no single point of failure, no single person can damage the entire network, and as it is distributed, if some nodes goes down, you have the copy of the smart contract available in some other nodes or distributed ledger, you can pick it up and you can update your ledger once again once you start coming up. So, there is very less chance of non availability of the contract, and whenever they are executing, it keep on executing. Backup, multiple copies of the contract on a blockchain distributed. So, see, if you see even the smart contract, that is the reason why the smart contract and the bitcoins are based on the, because that has the basic, that gives the basic protocol, the basic fundamentals to make it trusty, availability, security, no third party involvement, distributed ledger mechanism, all those features get inherited to these platforms, and then they add something on. That is why it is called as blockchain version 2 to a smart contract. Now, how smart contract works? So, first is you define you do a contract definition, correct. So, contract between parties are written in as code in the blockchain. Contract sign, parties signs the contract with their private keys as a digital signature, and contract is available in the public ledger, and the parties are anonymous. So, two parties sign their contract using a private keys as a digital signature, called as digital signature. Contract is available on the ledger. So, you have a contract definition, you define the contract, write it as a code, then you sign a contract, contract is available this as a signed by, they are using private keys, and contract parties are anonymous, though nobody comes to know which two parties has signed it, because they are using their private keys, public keys as their anonymous IDs. Then second is chain of events. So, after signing it, whenever an matching event, external event happens, it triggers code execution. Okay. When triggers code execution, the contract execution comes into the picture. The value transfer, values or settlement can be done only if based on the coded terms, coded contract terms. So, whatever we had coded as a part of a definition, correct, the value, the settlement processes can be done only based on that. So, whenever event happens, it goes, checks whether this has some matching contract clause or not. If yes, then it executes that clause. And then we have a settlement. So, once you execute the clause, then might be required to do a value transfers transactions and record it on the blockchain. Now, after the blockchain has been done, the last part is one of the things called contract monitoring. As I said, regulatory can use the block to monitor activities. So, I will just summarize what we are saying. You will define a contract definition and you code it as a part of software contract. Then you sign a contract with the digital signatures. Then the contract is in the platform. Whenever event happens, code itself sees event happens, it has any matching clause. Yes, itself executes it, and if executes it, there is a settlement needed, they do a settlement, and the transaction is again recorded back onto the blockchain network. And in all the process, whatever we are doing, whatever the transaction we are writing, the regulatory can monitor the smart contracts on the network. The good part, now next point is, this is how smart contract works, but how do we develop a smart contract? That is important. We know the smart contract is a software program, but how do we develop that smart contract, am I right? So, first part is design business logic and function, design contract token. So, basically what I am saying is definition, am I right? You will say, okay, these will be my business logic, these will be my functions based on the contract terms and conditions. Then you start implementing a start contract. So, coding for the contracts and the condition. You start writing conditions, clauses, all possible conditions as a part of coding. Then you test smart contract, deploy smart contract in a block network for testing. So, actually you just start doing a testing. Then we do an acceptance and review. So, the people will accept it, people will do a testing and then will review all the contract conditions, and then finally deploy that contract for everyone to use. And once you deploy it, then you start talking about all the event happening and you will start capturing those event, digital signature part, all these concepts. So, if you see what it looks like, it's like a software development cycle, definitely, because this is part of how you develop a software contract platform. Now, how the companies are coming with a smart? So, they are coming with their own templates of different kind of smart contracts, and you can choose one and start implementing for your contracts. So, there are a lot of software smart contract platforms in the market where you can choose one of those based on your requirement and then you start implementing it. Now, let us see what is the difference between a smart contract and a traditional contract. We know no third party involved, nothing involved, but let us see more things, am I right. So, in any contract, am I right, either it is a smart or a traditional, you have three things: definition, execution and audit. So, when I say definition, it is nothing but defining terms and condition and contract signing. When I am saying execution, execution of clause when event happens. Third is audit, where you collect the data and validate and monitor them. Now, how it happens with a traditional? It is always a third party or manual. Along with the third party or manually you do define the terms and condition and sign the contract. So, third party is involved and the two parties has to do manually. Execution, again third party is involved, or manually you execute, see the terms and condition and get your settlement. And the third is again audit and all, the third party again manual part, where regulatory or you just keep on monitoring it and do the audit what is going on the contract part. Now, how it actually happens in the smart contract? Definition, what you write is software program. As I said, contract clause are coded as a program. Execution, we are not executing it. As I said, it is self-executing, self-verifying. So, basically what happens is, whenever event happens, the software program executes itself. It is again a program, no manual intervention. Third is audit. You do not need to collect the data, you do not need to work on the validation, it is all real time, it is all programmed, it is all software program. So, see, in the smart contract and traditional reference, the major difference is And in the traditional, it's all manual or third party involved. In smart, it's all software program is doing the job for you. Okay. Let's see traditional and smart contracts in much more detail. Smart contracts are decentralized, traditionals are centralized. Third party, no involvement of third party in smart contracts. Traditional contract, yes, you can have lawyers, regulatories, governments which plays a part of a third party or mediators. Accessibility, smart contracts available publicly on the blockchain. Traditional contract, not shared publicly. Remittance or settlement, here it is automated. We had seen execution as automated, correct? There it is a manual. Party or lawyer has to do it manually. Execution time high. Sorry, I'm reading an old one. Execution time is very fast, very fast. Traditional is very high. I'll just write it here. It is very high, very fast, high. Archival, it is very easy. Software program, it's easy to archive. Traditional contract, difficult to archive. Cost, it's, if you see the smart contract, it's again, it's cheap, it's expensive. Availability, very high in case of the smart contract, and it's very low because there is a chances in traditional of single point failure. You have one copy, it's gone, am I right? Amendments, very difficult to do amendment in smart contract. It's a part of a software program. As I said, when the transaction done, it cannot be reversed, it cannot be uneased. Traditional contract, it's easy. You have to sit back, do the amendment, go ahead. Security, very high in the smart contract. Nobody can tamper. Traditional contract, chances of tampering, chances of making changes is high. Signatures, digital signatures, manual signatures. So, you use private keys as a digital signatures. Transparency, the transparency in a smart contract is very high. Anyone can see, it's available on public network. You can see all the transactions happening in the due course of the time, everything that you can do. In traditional contract, the transparency is very low or might be none, am I right? So, people cannot just see, only the parties involved can see, and those kind of things happen, and that has to be done. Now, let us talk about some of the smart contract platforms. So, we have Ethereum, which is founded in 2015, and they are now right now the leaders in the smart contract platform. As I said, this is a software program, so definitely there might be some languages involved. So, Solidity is the primary language used in the Ethereum. Hyperledger, founded in 2015 December, it's an open source framework set up by the Linux Foundation, and it supports many languages, but the Golang and the Java are the primary language used. Codius is a Ripple smart contract platform, and the primary language used is JavaScript programming language. Cardano, again an open source platform, more suitable for the advanced. So, whenever you want to go for advanced contract statement, go for either Ethereum and Cardano, and there is a way you choose there is a defined, people are suggesting defined methodology to choose the right platform, but still as a result is a smart contract. Cardano is a advanced one, and Haskell is the primary key language. Haskell is the primary key language which has a inbuilt security features available to you. Stellar, founded in 2014, it's one of the oldest smart card platforms, and it supports number of languages which include C, C++, Java, Python, JavaScript, etc. etc. Okay. NXT is again a blockchain platform that contains a limited smart contract platform. As I said, you can have a predefined smart contract templates. The platform provides you can start using those platforms and start adopting it. The NXT comes with a smart contract, but they have a limited number of smart contract templates available. So far so good. Some of the use cases where smart contracts are currently used. Insurance premiums and claims. It's nothing but a contract between two parties. Patient medical history, nothing but a two doctors and patient contract, right? You will not share it. Election voting, rent agreements, property sale agreements, all these can be implemented or being implemented as a part of smart contract. Crowdfunding, trade funding, supply chain, all these, because even a supply chain they might be possible. If you deliver the things in 10 days with this much of conditions, these are the conditions of the clauses when you settle them, right? So, all these are the very common smart contract use cases which people are adopting it and people are implementing it. But as I said, it's all software program. You have to code all if at else but condition and those kind of things. So far everything is good for us, am I right? Is there any drawbacks with the smart contracts? Definitely yes. So first of all, as I said, it's a software program. So once the software, we say software program, you had a very high dependency on the programmers. So you are vulnerable at the first level, am I right? Programmers can induce bugs. As I said, programmer is from the bugs in the code. So you need to be very thorough, very testful, very verification, all the test has to be part of the verification code. Not able to adjust, and once the code has been done part of it, am I right, you will not able to make any correction because you cannot revert back the transactions. So once it is get deployed, remember how to develop a smart contract. Once you deploy it for the usage, you cannot go back. But till the time you haven't deployed for the usage, you can keep on iterating because it's a part of the software development program. Implementation code, need to experience blockchain program, need experience blockchain program defined. So there is an implementation code. You need to pay high for your for experienced blockchain programmers. There is no government regulations, correct, on the smart contracts. No standard on how to put taxes on the smart contract. There might be taxes involved, right? So as of now, there is no standard defined by any of the governments. How can they put on the smart contracts? How to involve a legal entity? If there is a conflict, if there is something which is missing when we there, some amendment required, something conflict goes out. How can we involve a judiciary? Because judiciary people, am I right? They can't understand the code. So that's one of the major challenges. How can we involve legal entity in case of the conflict on the contract agreement and the clause which is part of it, am I right? Still they have a. So as of now, this is the very basic. If you see all these things, so smart contract is a good thing, but had a certain disadvantages, which we need to come up. So there is a dependency on the software developers, and we have to be very, very foolproof before deploying a software. This as a part of contracts. And some of the references that you can go through it is ethereum.org, blockgeeks.com, along with certain books. My personal, the personal book I like is basically a Mastering Ethereum, which I like most for myself, but you can go for these 4 books. Thank you.